Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the September 11th, 2025 regular meeting of the Talawanda City School District. It is recommended that the board conclude executive session and reconvene in public session. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved. Thank you, Mr. Otto.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions? Ms. Belsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Otter?
Yes.
Mr. Meade?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. It's recommended that the board approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion? Ms. Belsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Meade?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, reports. Butler Technology and Career Development School. Mr. Meade.
Okay, the Butler Tech Board met on August 19th. One of the things we did was celebrate our retirees, which included our own Sharon Gregory. Also, it was announced that we're going to start a teacher academy down at D. Russell Lee. Hopefully, we had done that before. We're bringing it back. I think that's a good idea considering attracting people to the teaching career has gotten kind of difficult, so we're hoping to get some young people interested early. We're also going to open an electronics lab focused on electronic things and electricity. So those two programs will start next year. And we rehired our former superintendent, John Graff, as a special advisor. And that's my Butler Tech report.
Thank you. Legislative Liaison Report, Mr. Wyatt.
Yeah, since we don't have a lot going on right now, obviously, in Columbus or the federal level, I do want to take a moment to talk about something that did pass at the federal level a couple months ago that people really don't think about as being a cut for a school district or the effect that it has for a school district, but it has a tremendous effect, and especially in light of some of the folks I talked to recently in our district. 3 weeks ago, I sat across from a mother of two in our district. Her youngest daughter has asthma. Her oldest needs counseling. She works two part-time jobs. Neither offer health insurance. And Medicaid has been this family's lifeline. I have to tell you that lifeline is being cut. The recently passed federal budget includes a significant reduction to Medicaid funding that will directly impact our community. The proposed Medicaid cuts aren't just numbers on a government spreadsheet. They're not abstract policy debates happening in distant offices. They're about our kids missing school because their mother can't afford her inhaler. They're about her son's behavior deteriorating because his counseling sessions have been stopped. They're about this mom choosing between rent and her children's health. And when these children struggle, our schools struggle. When our schools struggle, our entire community struggles, and they pay a price. Let me share you some numbers about Butler County, not just our district, but Butler County. There are 91,890 roughly of our neighbors that rely on Medicaid for their health care. That's 21% of our population. Of those, 50,000, a little over 50,000, are children. That's our children. It's our students, and it's our future. But here's what those numbers really mean. Thousands of children who won't receive preventive care, thousands of children who will arrive at school sicker, stay home more often, and fall further behind academically. Thousands of families pushed toward financial crises. Our school nurses are already overwhelmed. Our guidance counselors are stretched thin. Our teachers are becoming de facto healthcare workers, and this is not new. Spending precious classroom time managing medical emergencies that could have been prevented. When Medicaid coverage disappears, The responsibility doesn't vanish, doesn't magically go away. It transfers. It transfers to our emergency rooms. It transfers to our classrooms, creating longer wait lines and higher cost for everyone. It transfers especially to our schools, forcing us to provide services we're not equipped to handle. We're a school. It transfers to the local taxpayers, who will ultimately bear the cost through higher property taxes and reduced services. This is not just poor policy, it's financial recklessness. Let me tell you also about a student that I talked to who wants to be an engineer, but he has diabetes. It's managed through his Medicaid. If his blood sugar spikes, it will increase his absence, threaten his graduation, and derailing his college plans. These cuts will force our district to make impossible choices. Do we hire additional nurses to handle medical crises, or do we maintain our music and arts program? Do we expand meal programs to support malnourished children, or do we keep our advanced math classes? Do we increase our counseling staff to support traumatized students, or do we maintain reasonable class sizes? These are not choices any school board should have to make. These are false choices that pit a children's health against their education. Rural Ohio is already fighting an uphill battle. We've watched young people leave our state for other opportunities elsewhere. We've seen businesses close their doors. We've witnessed the slow erosion of services that make communities thrive. These Medicaid cuts will accelerate that decline. Families would be forced to leave in search for affordable health care. Our school enrollment could drop, reducing state funding. Our property values could decline in our communities because of being less attractive to young families. This is not just a health care issue. It's an economic development crisis waiting to happen. But beyond the numbers and beyond the economics, we face a fundamental moral question. What kind of community do we want to be? Are we a community that believes every child deserves the chance to learn, regardless of their family's economic circumstance? Are we a community that invests in our children's future, or one that watches them struggle from the sidelines? I believe we could do a lot in this situation. We could talk about it at public meetings. School boards, I don't think, do a great job of being very transparent about other cuts like this that are indirect cuts. We can do more about it. We can do more speaking up about those type of things. The fact that you all are here tonight shows that you all have an interest in your school. What I would say also is just understand this issue and transfer that concern to our congressperson, to our U.S. senators, not just our state legislators, because the Medicaid issues where this decision lies is in the federal government. But the choice before us is clear. We could accept these cuts as inevitable or watch communities suffer the consequences. By the way, community hospitals, rural community hospitals have been kept afloat for several years because of Medicaid expansion. Ohio was one of the first states to do that, as well as the Affordable Care Act. They have absolutely kept local rural hospitals afloat. This is a concern of mine because we are a rural area and we need healthcare providers. Lack of healthcare providers absolutely affects our children. The children in our classrooms are counting on us. The families in our neighborhoods are counting on us. The future of our community is counting on us. So I say that we take action and learn a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Arts and athletics report. I do have kind of a long one because things are off to a great start this year. From each of the schools that I got information from at the high school, Mr. Marston reports the marching band is off to a great start. They have their second performance of the season tomorrow evening at the home football game. They have their first competition on Saturday, September 20th at Lakota West. This year's show is titled Desperado. The THS Jazz Band, Steel Band, and String Orchestra are all off to a great start. Looking forward to great performances this school year. Ms. Claire at the high school reports that THS art students are having a great start. We've been taking advantage of the lovely weather to utilize our outdoor classroom for sketching and painting. Ceramics classes are throwing on the potter's wheel and constructing coil pots. Jewelry students are already soldering pendants. Our AP Studio students are on the second piece of their sustained investigations. Mr. McWilliams here at the high school also just had an exciting arts update today. Butler Rural generously donated $1,730 to support the new addition of woodworking to the THS 3D art program. Thank you, Mr. McWilliams, for writing that grant. At the middle school, Mr. Robertson reports that they have just finished our watercolor paintings, and students are excited about getting both messy and creative with clay. We will be using the coil building process to construct face vessels. We also had our first after-school art club meeting yesterday. It was exciting to see a lot of returning students, along with getting to meet new sixth graders with a passion for art. At Bogan, Ms. Powers reports 2nd through 5th grade students have created an art display called Buzzing at Bogan. She sent me a photo, hexagons like a beehive, and each individual hexagon is something created by the student on it. Kindergarten and 1st grade have completed an apple-themed project along with a dot day activity where students practice painting in the art room. 4th and 5th grade students have also completed All About Me zines and have mastered the Artsonia upload process. At Marshall, Mr. Menezes reports music classes are off to a great start. The lower grades are working on beat and rhythm. The 3rd grade students have begun learning about the families of orchestral instruments. 4th grade was very excited to begin learning to play the recorder. That made me chuckle because I was also excited when my daughter started learning to play the recorder, maybe not quite as excited as she was, but it's a great time. 5th grade students have been learning about the history of the Star-Spangled Banner, singing about the Constitution and other patriotic music this week. We recently received a grant to purchase 25 music-themed books, again from Butler Rural Electric. Students will now have access to age-appropriate biographies of variety musicians like Elton John, Celia Cruz, and Bob Marley, as well as Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven. Thank you, Butler Rural. Samantha French, Ms. French at Marshall says, we completed a collaborative mural depicting Marshall's PACS, the peaceful vision for the year ahead. Each student, grades K through 5, created a piece of their Marshall heart to share their individual hope for the year, and once placed together, our hearts were formed. Our work is currently being displayed in the main hallway. We have also received another grant for Butler Rural. Butler Rural has consistently been an amazing supporter of the Talawanda School District. Thank you. They received Butler Rural for approximately $600 to support the ceramic program. And students are currently working with many types of art media, including oil pastels, paints, and printing to create our fall-inspired masterpieces. Finally, at Kramer, Ms. Kelly reports students are off to making some wonderful music. Grades K2 are learning about the elements of music through singing, games, observation, and playing rhythm instruments. Grades 3 to 5 are reviewing what they know and are learning to read music on the treble clef. Grades 3 to 5 have also started playing the recorders. Gotta love those recorders. Ms. Smarta at Kramer reports that they've started their year with the theme of apples and discussing how the apple has become a symbol of education through our American history, as well as more scientific growth and development, adding to its symbolism. We've been focusing on establishing processes and procedures in the art studio, as well as adding in some new PACS leadership with our recent PACS training. Kramer Elementary is also excited to introduce the new Bogan art teacher, Riley Powers, landing the start of her career at Bogan Elementary with her very impressive resume and student teaching experience at Kramer in the spring. I'm personally excited to have her as a colleague. Kramer is expecting another student teacher from Miami in October, Ms. Kayla Campbell. It is certainly a refreshing and rewarding experience to mentor our up-and-coming young teachers with a passion for not only teaching visual art, but an investment in developing minds for problem solving, fine motor skills, and developing a lifelong growth mindset. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people don't recognize, how much our teachers give as mentors to student teachers. So thank you for everyone who's hosting a student teacher. The athletics report, there's a lot going on and a lot of success this year. Mr. Richardson reports they've had a great start with a lot of positive notes to share across all of our programs. I'm just going to do the varsity highlights here today. Girls tennis opened the year by winning the Hurricane Classic at Wilmington High School. They currently hold an 11-4 overall record and a 4-0 record in the SWBL conference. Boys golf also off to a very strong start with an 8-1 overall match record and very high tournament finishes. Most recently placed second in the first SWBL tournament this past Tuesday. He reports this is a very young team without a senior on it. Girls golf continuing to improve with a solid showing in the SWBL tournament on Tuesday. Both boys and girls golf will compete this Saturday in the final SWBL tournament at Beechwood Golf Course in Arcanum, which will decide the SWBL Conference Championship. Good luck to the golf teams. Boys cross country performing well as always. Garrison Franks currently holds the top time in the SWBL, set earlier this season at the Centerville meet. Girls cross country, another strong year with Abra Mills and Adriana Luking currently holding the top two spots in the SWBL. Katie Sparks also ranks in the top 10 SWBL runners this fall. Girls soccer off to a 3-4 overall start and 1-1 in conference play, highlighted by a big conference win last Thursday over Franklin. Boys soccer currently 4-3 overall and 1-1 in the conference. On Tuesday, they had a big win over Ross. It's the first time since 2018 that boys soccer has beat Ross. Football off to an amazing 3-0 start, scoring over 40 points in each game. I'm sure many of you have heard the amazing performance of Lance Cantrell, who has set some records and now has rushed for 863 yards in just 3 games. In week 1, he set the single game rushing record with 423 yards. He's currently ranked number 1 in the nation in rushing yards on Max Prep. The team is hosting Franklin at home tomorrow night. Please come out and support the team, cheerleaders, and band. Finally, volleyball standing at 5-4 overall and 1-1 in conference play. Competing against a tough schedule, this team continues to improve and looks poised for a strong second half of the season heading into tournament play in October. So excellent successes in the new SWBL conference. Thank you. All right, student achievement, academic liaison report, Mrs. King.
I would like to start off by just making a couple of remarks. Today marks the anniversary of the September 11th attacks. 24 years ago, this nation faced an unspeakable attack that cost the lives of thousands. Patriot Day honors the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the brave first responders who selflessly put themselves in harm's way to help those in need. It is a tragic day in U.S. history that saw the senseless loss of life, but also exemplifies how Americans can come together, stand together, and help one another in times of crisis. I would like to take a moment of silence to recognize those who lost their lives 24 years ago today. So moving on to the high school report. The efforts of our students, faculty, staff, and families have resulted in our ranking in the top 20% of all public high schools in the country. Ross High School, Lakota West High School, and Talawanda High School were ranked 22nd, 23rd, and 24th respectively in the Cincinnati area. Gracie Abrams, Wallace Howard, Abriel Markham, Gracie Rumpler, and Chloe Ruoff were recognized in the Ohio Cooperative Magazine September 2025 edition for their involvement in the Washington, D.C. delegation this past summer. Thank you to Butler Rural Electric Cooperative for sponsoring this event. As a member of the Cincinnati Youth Bass Club, Maddie Dawson placed third in the Ohio Bass National High School State Championship, earning a spot in the national championship in Georgia. In August, sophomore Brady Arnos was shortlisted for the 2025 Global Essay Prize awarded by the prestigious John Locke Institute. Moving on to TMS. This year, we're very excited to have some new committees at TMS focusing on critical component areas. Part of the increasing the amount of awards and recognizing students for improvement in their grades, demonstrating growth and character traits, as well as communication, home to families, and celebration of their child's success. We have also added new class selections for this year, such as ag courses for the high school credit, food explorations, and global explorations. Our BMX Bike Club is about to begin and adds a new element of instruction to the history of engineering courses, both inside and outside of the school day. For Kramer, one of the highlights so far has been training professional development by the Kramer staff. The staff has completed PACS training and are currently in the implementation stages of the good behavior model that teaches the components of PACS, equips educators with various strategies that support students and promote success. For Marshall, we had a wonderful start to the school year at Marshall Elementary. Our students are engaging, our staff is working hard, and our families continue to partner with us to make sure all students feel welcome and supported. A few highlights from this past month include student learning. Classrooms are off to a strong start with clear routines, high expectations, and engaging instruction. Teachers are working collaboratively to meet the diverse needs of our learners. Family engagement. We had a fantastic turnout for our open house. Our resource hub was a hit, and families continue to show great support. Positive school culture. Students are embracing our school-wide expectations, PACS, and demonstrating kindness, respect, and responsibility. We are proud of the community that they are building together. Staff dedication. Our staff continues to go above and beyond to support students academically, socially, and emotionally. Their teamwork, collaboration, and support of each other is evident in every part of the school day. Moving on to the FFA. Our members of the month, shout out to Peyton Shepard-Lehman and Jake Algier for their outstanding dedication this summer. Their hard work and leadership stand as an inspiration to us all, and we're honored to recognize them as our members of the month. 3-star chapter. Out of the 9,407 chapters across the nation, 448 chapters receive a 3-star rating. Talawanda Butler Tech FFA is proud to have earned all 3 stars. Protect the Producer 365. Our senior capstone class took the initiative to plan and coordinate the first project, the Protect the Producer event. Addie, Grace, Jake, and Peyton traveled to the Merrill Grain Customer Appreciation event in Brookville, Indiana on Friday, August 29th. They were able to help 52 farmers and producers create customizable safety kits. Lastly is the report from the FCCLA and FCS. We are off to a strong start this year. Our contemporary cuisine class students have already learned important foundational skills such as knife safety and sanitation. Our membership students are already placed in the field with sites including Marshall, Kramer, and Bogan Elementary Schools. Hopeful Pastures, Greg Daniels Physical Therapy, and even shadowing in SRO in Middletown. FCCLA is also busy. We just wrapped up our Butter Braids fundraiser to support service projects with one student, Jalen Bell, selling an impressive 25 braids. Students have begun planning several projects, including Dig for the Cure, Trunk or Treat, and our annual Veterans Day event. That is it.
Thank you. Financial Liaison Report, Mr. Otto.
I have no report today.
All right, on to our resolutions and presentations. First up, we welcome Mr. Mark Hopkins, the CTO of SWOCA. He's going to give us a report on cybersecurity.
Good evening and thank you. I'm going to set my timer because Dr. Thoreau gave me a very clear time limit, and if you've heard me speak before, that's a challenge for me. My name is Mark Hopkins. I'm proud to serve Talawanda as the Chief Technology Officer of SWOCA. That's the Southwest Ohio Computer Association. Our relationship with Talawanda dates back to the late 70s. SWOCA is first and foremost a member-owned nonprofit council of governments. So as Ohio is very unique in how our school districts are shaped and structured, we exist to make things possible at a larger scale than individual districts can do on their own. I was asked to come today to give you a shortened and slightly updated version of a presentation that I gave to your teachers on the first day back to school. And I will have to say there's nothing quite as tired as teacher first day of school tired, but I really want to thank you and thank your staff for making me feel so welcome and listening to our message. Being in cybersecurity, I have been in IT leadership now for over 30 years. And if you're doing the math, yes, I am old enough to have been here that long. There's one key message that I find that is constant in technology, and that is the one thing constant in our world is change. All things are in a state of flux. And I'm a person of a certain age, and when I look at what has happened in my time on this planet, when I look at technology, digital leadership shared this slide a couple of years ago. The first personal computers date back to 1975. I was in kindergarten, first, second grade, somewhere along that time frame in that year. But then only 9 years later, we had broadly connected internet, and 11 years after that, the dawn of this, what we now call social media. But what we see in this graph is the accelerating pace of technological change from social media to mobile devices to now artificial intelligence. And when I look at this change, and I look at my children, and I look at my grandchildren, and yes, I'm going to use this as an excuse to show baby pictures. This is my now 11-month-old granddaughter, Aria James. She was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, almost a year ago now. And Aria was born with a heart defect that just 8 years ago would have been fatal. It was detected simply because her older sister had a heart murmur, and so the doctors opted to perform a in utero sonogram just to check for a heart murmur. They didn't find a heart murmur, they found something much worse, and had that not been caught, Aria would not have even celebrated her 1-month birthday. And when I look at technology that she's going to inherit and what we're going to see in her lifetime, this will be the biggest hunk of junk that she will ever see. And to me, this is pretty cool. So the technology that we have experienced as adults in our lifespan is nothing compared to what the children that are coming into our classrooms and leaving our classrooms are going to experience in their lifetime. Before I was in SWOCA, I was a college professor and I taught a couple of classes. And one of the things that I always look to try to connect with my students and understand what their life is like as compared to mine is this thing called the mindset list. The class of 2025, which we recently graduated, was born in 2007, and some things that have always happened in their life that many of us consider fairly recent activities. A woman has always been the Speaker of the House in their lifetime. Phones have never been done, and frankly, they haven't been connected to the wall in a long time. The Simpsons have always been movie stars. It blows my mind. I remember they first came on the air as a TV show. And Netflix has always been a streaming service. Those of us of a certain age remember when they sent DVDs, and yes, I'm old enough to remember when the internet came in the mail. When we look at this accelerating pace of change, we look at what is going to be common when these students like Aria get to our schools, there are a couple of things that we need to recognize as a local school district. Cybersecurity is not a cookie-cutter solution, nor is it a journey that we'll ever know when we are there. Imagine we're taking a journey from here in Oxford to Los Angeles. We can plan the route. We know when we're going to show up. We know, like, hey, welcome to Los Angeles. We know we've arrived. This is not cybersecurity, ladies and gentlemen. We have to accept that we're never going to be there, and we're never going to be done when talking about cybersecurity. We're more like the defense in a never-ending football game. And I like to think we play a little bit better than the Bengals defense, but this week was a pretty respectable showing, so we'll give them some credit. But even in a football game, we have a clear time limit. In cybersecurity, the offense has all the money because they're using the money they collect from us against us. Verizon has an annual report called the Data Breach Incident Report, and this is from 2025 report, and it shows the common attack vectors in the educational services sector. And you'll notice here the red line signifies system intrusion, and the blue line, the fastest growing attack vector, social engineering. These two things have one thing in common, in that they are attacking the weakest element in any cybersecurity platform. It's not the server, it's not the internet connection, it's not the firewall, it's us, the human beings. They are attacking the human element in order to get a financial payback. The data breach incident report goes on to compare sectors across all industries. And I'm going to call your attention to a couple of facts here. In 2024, which is where the 2025 report covers, 30,000 incidents led to over 10,000 breaches. When we say a breach, we mean a compromise of data that got out that shouldn't have gotten out. When we drill into this data a little bit more, we look at education, it doesn't look too bad. We only have 1,700 incidents across education and 1,500 breaches. Hidden in this data is a very real fact that I want to call your attention to. Across all categories, 35% of those incidents led to confirmed breaches, but in education, 86% of those incidents have led to breaches. Now, this means one of two things. Either we're dramatically underreporting incidents or not detecting incidents, or once we have an incident, we are 5 times more likely to lead to a breach. Either one of those facts is not an acceptable level of risk for me as your CTO. Why are we so valuable in education? Well, the other thing that the data breach incident report tells us is that 98% of the threat actors are attacking us for financial gain. We've got no money. We don't have enough to go around for the nurses and everything else that we need to really address the fundamental issues here in education. So why are we so valuable to the attackers? First of all, we are valuable because the large internet connections and the sheer volume of devices that we maintain are able to be used against other institutions as an attack vector. But really where the value comes into is the value and the amount of student data that we have to maintain. And a couple of facts from the dark web. Basic PII. When I say PII, I mean privately identifiable information. So that would be a name, email, address, and an address. Each record, each individual person is worth anywhere between $5 and $15. Full identity profiles, in other words, we add a social security number and a date of birth, all data that school districts have, makes that value per record as high as $100. And if we add medical records, we have up to $500. On the right, I have kind of a definition of PII, but basically it's any information that allows an individual to be identified as an individual. Now, the reality that this data doesn't show is that the data that we house is actually more valuable to the attackers than, say, my data. Why would you think that a 7th grader's PII would be more valuable than mine? Well, the reality is the typical K-12 student is 6 to 8 years away from even checking their credit report. So that's a much longer time between compromise and detection that identity can be used for nefarious purposes. And we find that it's happened quite often, even in the last 5 years, where somebody goes to go to college or goes to buy their first car, and that's when they discover that their data has been compromised. I want to spend a few minutes tonight talking about the legal requirements around data privacy and student data privacy. There's 2 federal laws I'm going to talk about and 2 Ohio pieces of legislation that I think are important to the conversation. But first and foremost, I'm not an attorney. I'm a chief technology officer who happens to like law. So this is not legal advice. This is simply meant to be a report on best practices. Please consult with your attorney for situation specific to Talawanda. The first law I want to talk about is FERPA. This is the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. And we could spend an hour talking about FERPA. I promise I won't. But basically what FERPA does is acknowledges that a parent or a student over the age of 18 has some control and rights to their educational records. Most of those rights will transfer to the student at the age of 18, and the law is constitutional because it's tied to, guess what, funding. Even though the Department of Education has gone through some changes as of recent, the funding mechanism is still there. FERPA also talks a little bit about how state agencies like SWOCA transmit testing data to the federal agencies and things like that. But the reality here is, and this is an excerpt from the Federal Department of Education, this slide is actually aimed towards parents, but I want to call your attention to a couple of the components here. Basically, FERPA gives the parent control over the majority of that information and prevents us as a school district from generally disclosing any PII about the child without the parent's written consent. That written consent is an important component here as we get farther into other elements. So when we look at things like software licensing and things like that, and we look at like Ohio SB 29, which we'll talk about in a minute, a lot of these devices and a lot of these terms and conditions are requiring parental consent for us to use these tools. This is telling us that FERPA is an issue at play, especially with the age factor of 18 being considered. The second federal law, which is tied to funding as well, is COPA, or the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act. Well, this is not a law that we as a school district have to comply with. It's a law we have to be aware of because of the data that we might be sharing with third parties. COPA recognizes the things that middle school teachers have known their entire career, and that's certain, at a certain age, our children's brains just don't work right. And COPA recognizes that at the age of 13 and under, a child might not be able to understand the implications of sharing or oversharing their data. And so therefore, COPA is a responsibility of the website owner to not collect data from individuals under the age of 13 without, again, expressed written permission from the parent. And I call your attention to this because the age of 13, FERPA is relative. The age of 18, FERPA is relative. The age of 13, COPA is relative. There's a lot more that we could talk about here, but these are not new. These have been around for several years. There's been some case law as well that's happened around these. The two things at the Ohio level that are relatively new that we're going to spend most of our time, remaining time today on, we're first going to start with Ohio Senate Bill 29. Senate Bill 29 recognizes the fact that third-party technology providers, Google, Microsoft, companies like that, are utilizing the data that they collect for marketing purposes. And SB 29 basically is FERPA with additional guidelines and additional teeth, but it says very clearly that educational records are the sole property of the school district, and we have a duty and a responsibility to protect those records. We also have a duty to ensure any third party that is utilizing our records also maintains and protects them to that same level. The interesting thing that happened at SB 29, though, is it became a very deep conversation about who is a technology provider. And the first version of the bill actually didn't clarify some things, and we at SWOCA were even needed to comply with SB 29. But technology provider examples that have been called out by several: Google Securely, which is a web filtering solution; Aubrey, phenomenal platform for student data analysis; IXL, Hapara, Learn21, even SWOCA. We are all considered technology providers under the law. Now, SWOCA, since we're recognized as part of the Ohio K-12 school system, there is a carve-out for us like there is for the Educational Service Centers, Department of Education Workforce, and others like that. But where this becomes, as I like to call it, the iceberg dead ahead moment, there are other technology providers that have gotten lumped into this definition. Those would be things like Canva, a phenomenal tool to use in education to create graphics and infographics and things like that. But Canva, under this law, is a technology provider. Dropbox, Seesaw, Huddle, which is used in a lot of our member districts for the athletics department, these are all potentially technology providers under the law. The other thing that I found very interesting is when I researched the artificial intelligence and the online plagiarism checkers. Unless that data is personally identifiable, in other words, you can't just take a student assignment and upload it to one of these things and check it out. You have to pull that student's identifiable information out before sharing it, because we have to realize that artificial intelligence, like any of these other tools, is an unknown third party. That got a lot of conversation when I was speaking with your teaching staff. SB 29 also has notification requirements. Talawanda has a Google form that allows them to evaluate all the terms and conditions, not just against the requirements of SB 29, but of COPA and FERPA. And that's the reason that we need this information before. We don't want to be in the way of teachers teaching and using great tools, but we have to ensure that we're complying with these policies. There is a statewide effort called the DPLA, the Data Privacy, can't remember what the L stands for, Association. Language Association, I believe what it is, and it's an offshoot of Ohio COSIN and Learn 21. And there is a large effort to share data privacy agreements, and so no one district has to do this alone. SB 29 has been around and been the law for about a year and a half, and the first deadline was this past August when the district was required to publish all technology providers that could have access to student information. The new one that really snuck in, and I want to make sure that we save enough time to discuss, is HB 96. House Bill 96 is the biannual budget bill, and buried in 3,100 pages are 3.5 pages of very interesting information about cybersecurity. HB 96 takes effect September 30th in full. A couple of things that now requires: that if the district were to be compromised by ransomware and concluded that the best possible approach would be to pay the ransom, that action will now require this board's approval. If there is a cybersecurity event that is clearly defined in the law, there are now notifications. The Ohio Cyber Incident Center has to be notified within 7 days, and the Auditor of State has to be notified within 30 days. The getcha here is our data does not only live in our systems, our data also lives in third-party systems. So we have to be very, very cautious as to who has access to our student data and ensure that the agreement between the district and that third party allows us to meet these new requirements of HB 96. We have, as a school district, until July 1st of 2026 to adopt a formal cybersecurity program and framework. The good news is the team here at Talawanda has a good head start on that, as they have an existing incident response plan, and that is the first component of a cybersecurity framework. The law also mentions, although doesn't require, annual employee training for all staff members tailored to their job function. It's not actually required in the law, but all the frameworks that the law mentions actually have the same requirement. So the law is written, it's like you really should do this, but then the framework is what is the stick behind that carrot, so to speak. A few highlights about that compliance timeline. The reporting starts September 30th. The law was passed June 30th, so it'll be 90 days. It identifies what the incidents are that triggers this, like loss of data confidentiality, something that we shouldn't have shared and we did. Loss of data integrity, somebody changed the data. Student hacking into the teacher's grade book and changing the data, that would be a loss of data integrity. Data availability, if the district was attacked by ransomware and we couldn't get to the data, that would be a triggering factor for the HB 96 notification. Operational disruption, we can't do the things that we normally do. That could be anywhere from collecting money in the cafeteria to doing attendance. Again, only if it's as a result of an external third party. Unauthorized access due to a third party or supply chain compromise. That's going to be the harder one to detect, but the reality is this is why we have to very carefully evaluate those contracts with those third parties. There is a new section that has been put into this, put into ORC as a result of this, and I want to apologize. There is a version of this PowerPoint that might be published that has the incorrect citation. It is 149.433, and this basically states that except as otherwise provided, a security record and all cybersecurity incidents, events, and items like that are considered security records under Ohio Revised Code, and they are now exempt from public records request. That includes the name of any vendor, supplier, or solution being used, being considered to be used, or any event, cybersecurity event that happens within the environment. The framework, we're going to break it down into a couple of quick sessions, or a couple of quick sections here. There's some organizational tasks that we have to do. Talawanda has an incident response plan that needs to be updated as part of this. Board policy needs to be reviewed to make sure there's items in there that comply and it might need to be updated. I believe the district uses Neola for policy. Neola is working on an update right now that complies with HB 96. Revising that incident response plan is absolutely critical because we now have the notification requirements. And then assess the current systems. Where does the data live? Is it on-premise? Is it in the cloud? Is it in a third party? And then finally, within the 8-month time frame that we just outlined, we have to select a framework and the board will have to formally adopt a framework before the July 1st deadline. I want to end with something that I call the network value paradox. And this is very true in education. Again, from my days as a college professor, Metcalfe's law is one of the governing laws of technology, and it basically says that networks deliver value by the work that they do. So the value of eBay is the value of every transaction that eBay ever did, billions of dollars. K-12 networks deliver value differently because we don't sell anything. We have the responsibility of educating our students, and the most precious commodity that we have is instructional time. These cybersecurity requirements are not giving us more instructional time. In fact, they're taking away from instructional time. And as such, we have to recognize that everything we do to comply with these rules and responsibilities and regulations is going to be another burden on our teaching staff. So here's the value paradox. The most valuable network is open, allows you to connect to anything you want. Imagine the institutional and the educational value we could get with a wide open internet. But the only secure network is one that's fully closed. So the network value paradox is we cannot have security without value. We cannot have value without security. So the reality is cybersecurity has to be a balance with instruction here at Talawanda. The absolute best cybersecurity defense, though, it can be any system, any solution, anything we put into place. But really, it's an educated and diligent staff. And I do want to thank you for the chance to talk with your staff earlier this school year and just be part of the extended Talawanda family. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
One question I had, do you provide protection to us with third-party software like Google?
Being able to answer that question in a public session is now an ORC violation. We do have some solutions that we provide. I do not have the exact data for what we provide Talawanda at this point, but I can tell you that there are several solutions out there, including some offered by SWOCA that do wrap around the Google ecosystem, backup, recovery, things like that, yes. What's exactly in place here at Talawanda, I don't have that information with me, but I'd be happy to track that down and report to Dr. Thoreau.
And I did have one other question. Do
Yes,
your
ma'am.
employees, do they have criminal and financial background checks?
I'm sorry, I missed the first half of that.
Do your employees have criminal and financial background checks?
Criminal background checks, yes, because we are recognized as school district employees, so we go through the same background checks, FBI and BCI checks, as any school employee would, because we are recognized as school district employees by DEW. As far as if a financial background is part of that, I'm not aware that that's a requirement at the state. But we go through the same background checks that all teachers and administrators do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions, folks? It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Bailey, first reading of policies.
Well, good evening. I can guarantee you that my presentation will not be nearly as riveting as that. But you do have a list of policies in the agenda. This is the first reading of those. Again, just to kind of echo what was already said, we do subscribe to Neola for our policies, who take care of over 90% of the school districts in Ohio. And we use them for their knowledge of policy, their connection to legislators, as well as the lawyers that they employ to make sure that we are following the law. The majority of the revisions that are in the policy are a reflection of the 2025 budget bill, which we all know that when they passed the biennial budget bill, very small part of that bill actually has to do with the money or the budgets. Most of it is sneaking in things that they want school districts and government agencies to follow. So a lot of this comes from House Bill 96, which was already mentioned. So this is a reflection of the new legislator policies that were passed. I also want to make a mention in this list of policies. You'll notice that several of the policies are being rescinded. That's kind of unusual to have this many policies rescinded, and I want to assure you that the policy language is not going away. What Neola is doing is to make it an easier read for the clients, for school districts, and for the public in the school districts. They're combining policies, and they're making sure they're just not doubling the language in several different policies, so they're streamlining the policy. So most of these rescissions that are on here are not because the policies no longer need it, it's because that language falls in another policy, if that makes sense. So just some of the things that this group of policy talks about. There's a reversal of policy from 2024 regarding extracurricular activities. That's in that group of policies. This clarifies the superintendent's role in assigning teachers or moving teachers is in this group of policies. The new phone policy, or part of the new phone policy that was enacted by the governor, is in this group of policies. Some changes to the attendance law are in this policy. We have some clarification for the release time for religious instruction in this group of policies. There's one new policy in this group which has to do with their treasurer's office and guidance on credit card use. We have clarification for the use of the auditor in formulating and counting the money for several of our beginning of the year balances. And then we have a lot of policy in here on cybersecurity and student safety. So that just kind of gives you a high-level picture of it. You do have the overviews in your email. Certainly over the next month as you read these and you have any questions, you can email me or give me a call and I can help you through that. And if I don't have the answer for you, I will get the answer for you. Are there any questions at this time?
I was just going to say thank you for the summary that you put together for these. I did open almost all of them and glance through them, but your summary was very much appreciated.
And I know
That's a
that
lot.
the zip file did not work for everybody, so we will rectify that for next month. So they'll come a little bit differently next month, but we'll get this worked out.
And just a reminder to the public, anybody who wants to see these policies, they're all linked on the agenda. And the policy, the PDF will show language that has been struck through or changed. So thank you for.
Yes, and just for the knowledge of the public, 97% of the strike-throughs and the additions, again, are coming from legal counsel. We have very, very little latitude in choosing language, or every once in a while we'll get to choose this or that, but again, nearly 100% of the language is directed by Neola and the lawyers with Neola.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you for answering the question about why we're rescinding so many policies, because I found that strange. We usually don't do that. And rescinding policies about harassment and discriminating based on genetic information seemed kind of strange to me.
Yeah,
To
if
get
you
rid of
look-
those policies, would you be able to let me know later where that stuff, what other policies those appear in?
Sure.
Where they've kind of combined them?
And if you look at the policy book from beginning to end, you'll notice that the sections are repeats of each other.
Yes.
So you have a section on administrators, which mirrors almost exactly a section on certified employees, which mirrors exactly almost the section on classified employees. So you might have three policies there have the exact same language. They're just going to streamline that. But yes, I can point that out to you.
Okay, and then I think I'll have a conversation with Dr. Thoreau about the policy about seniority and continuing contracts not being the primary consideration in transfers, et cetera. But I'll have that with him.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, public participation. We just have one person tonight. Mr. King.
Scotty King, Darktown, Ohio.
It's recommended that the board approve a quote from Biometric Information Management for purchase of a complete national web check system at a cost of $6,500. This system will allow the district to conduct background checks, FBI and BCI on site. Have a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion and questions?
I was just going to ask, I'm sure this is going to end up saving money, but how much, just curiosity, how much are we spending now on this?
So right now, we're probably not going to save money on it. Hear me why. Hear me out. Because it's $6,500 up front, and then there's an $800 annual fee for it. Right now, any new staff members or staff members needing to renew their licenses have to have that background check. And the background checks, they usually go to Miami Police, that's the closest to it, and they charge, I think it's between $60 or $80 in that range. So this will allow us to do it in-house. We still have to pay $20 for one of them and $25 for one, so that's $45. So we're going to charge a little bit more, but not as much as what Miami. And the reason behind that is, I want you to think about our classified staff, our staff that are only working 3 hours, for instance. It almost takes our entire paycheck for a day to pay for this. The second thing that it'll do, it'll speed it up. Right now, we're at the mercy of whenever we get those results back. You've seen some of those issues when I put on personnel, and then pending BCI background checks and stuff like that. Sometimes we don't get them quickly. So this will allow us to do it right then and there. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I figured, it seemed complicated before having to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it is. And then we sometimes lose people because, well, I don't want to do it. But when we bring them in to onboard them, we can do them right there, have their paperwork signed and everything. So that's why we're asking them. We used to have this, and this was before I was superintendent, way back. I don't know if it was during your time, Shauna, where we used to have it, and it used to be the
Fingerprint, looks like a fingerprint.
yeah. But then I don't know if the machine broke or whatever, or we didn't use it anymore, and when we went to Miami. Explanation, any other questions or discussion?
Otto?
Yes.
15 seconds.
That's the June of 2024 where you guys voted to approve a background check machine to help immediately place people. Why are we not using that? Why do we let it slip through the crack? Why are we sending them to Miami?
Your time's up.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the report of the treasurer. We're going to first consider item 6A separately, since Mr. Wyatt was not at that special session. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented by the treasurer for the August 27th, 2025 special session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion?
I don't believe I was at that.
It was Mr. Otto, it was Mr., yeah.
Mr. Otto is
Oh,
on
Mr.
that.
Otto, my
Yeah.
apologies.
That's all right.
You look so much alike. Did I have a second? Did we get a second?
Yes,
Mrs.
I
King.
gave a second.
Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. We're going to block items
Abstain.
6B through 6H. This is approval of the minutes for the August 12th regular meeting. 6C, approval of gifts. 6D, approval of appropriation modifications. 6E, approval of then and now over 3,000. 6F, approval of the financial report for August 2025. 6G, approval of the amended certificate of estimated resources. And 6H, approval of the fiscal year 26 permanent appropriation resolution. Do I have a motion to approve items 6B through 6H?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion or questions? Ms. Tefelsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Item 6I, approval of mutual facilities agreement between TCSD and the City of Oxford for the 25-26 school year. Do I have a motion to approve this agreement?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions? I know there was some question just about making sure that all items of the agreement are being adhered to, and that question came up with the replacement or the repair to the water main at the
So we
middle school.
had an issue over at the middle school over the summer where fire trucks were hooking up to the fire hydrants, and our water main underneath the middle school malfunctioned, blew, and needed to be replaced. And so we are working with the city right now and their insurance company on getting full reimbursement.
Okay. There was just some back and forth about who
There
was
has been a
gonna-
lot of back and forth.
So we just want to make sure when we're approving an agreement that all parties are actually,
Say that they're going to do full replacement. That
they're going to do
happens.
that. All right, thank you. Thank you for pursuing that, too. I know that's been interesting. Any other discussion or questions? Belsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
For informational items, I do not have anything at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to report of the superintendent. We're not voting on item 7A. There's no vote needed there, correct? Did anything get added there?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, there are no certificated licensed personnel included in 7A. So we're voting on items 7B through G. 7B is approval of classified personnel. 7B1, resignation. 7B2, resignation. 7B3, approval of limited employment classified staff contracts. 7B4, approval of substitute classified staff employees. Item 7C is supplemental personnel. 7C1, approval of supplemental contracts. Item 7D, revision of the elementary handbook. 7E, approval of an overnight field trip proposal for the Washington, D.C. field trip. Item 7F, approval of bus routes for the 25-26 school year. And item 7G, annual review of policy 2413, career advising. Do I have a motion to approve items 7B, 7C, wait a minute, let me get my numbers here. 7B, 1 through 3, 1 through 4, 7C, 1, 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion?
I'd just like to thank Mr. Brink for always arranging this trip to Washington. The kids enjoy it. I also know it's a tremendous amount of work that he takes on. So thank you, Mr. Brink.
I was just going to thank Ed for putting together this little chart that shows the different people that we're voting on for these classified positions with categories, whether they're background checks, drug tested, and I'm assuming when there's an X in the box, that means that's been done. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Any other questions or discussion? Belsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Item 7H, it is recommended that the board approve the resolution to terminate all contracts for Dr. Joseph Hall effective immediately. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Question or discussion? Elski, please call the vote.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. All right, 7I is not a vote. It's a discussion on our hiring practices, challenges that we've recently met, and what we are doing, can do, can't do. Dr. Throw, I'll let you lead that discussion.
I've provided you with information, so I believe would be up to the board if they have any additional questions or information that they would like to know.
So I do appreciate this document you put together, which is publicly, oh, no, it is not publicly accessible.
No, but it can be.
It can
I
be if we
think.
can make it publicly accessible. What he's done is put together the entirety of everything that goes, all of the steps that go into our hiring system, like what that sequence is, everything that's done for it. Now, it was asked last month that we have this conversation to talk about what we are doing well, what we could do better. So, colleagues, do you have anything to contribute?
Yeah, I think we want to make sure that what happened doesn't happen again to the best of our ability.
Agreed.
I think it was a mess, and what we want to do is avoid messes like that. And I think what the cybersecurity guy mentioned today about the value paradox kind of applies here. I had a friend who worked in cybersecurity at Miami, and I think a while back the president's email got hacked and some student sent some emails out in the president's name. So my friend got called in, and the president of the university had a conversation with him about this cannot happen. And he said, I can guarantee it'll never happen, but then we'll never get any work done. You know, that there is this balance between security and then actually doing something, and that exists in the cyber world. And I think it exists to some degree in the hiring world. Sometimes we're in a position where we need a cafeteria worker or two today so the kids can eat. And do we not feed the children because somebody's background check got hung up at the state level? And so I think we can't guarantee 100% that problems don't happen. I think what we got to be very careful of is that don't happen in any positions where we are interacting with the children. That's where I would like to see us be even more vigilant about hirings, and I know that may not even always be possible. So I appreciate the information you sent to us, Dr. Thoreau, with the hiring procedures and the things we already do to try to prevent these things from happening. I know that I've been on the board 8 years. We've had thousands of contracts. This has never happened. It's just, it's an outlier. If I was a scientist and did thousands of experiments and they all came out within a range and then one's over here, it's an outlier. I don't break everything because of that one event. So while I want us to be vigilant, which I know we have been, maybe we need to be more vigilant, but at the same time we have to continue functioning and serving the needs of our students. So I thank you for the information. I hope that becomes available to the public so that they can look at the complexities of this and things.
I think I'd also like to appreciate and point out, ultimately the system worked. It didn't work as fast as we wanted it to, but it did work, and I appreciate that you've added, again, we're not resting on that. What else can we do? What can we add? And we've now added an additional form that all applicants will have to sign that basically says, there's not going to be a problem with my background check.
Correct.
Now, that form in and of itself is like any legal form. It only has teeth to the point where an applicant is truthful, but it at least does create documentation and possible action if someone has signed a form that they have falsely indicated something on. So, again, we are continually looking at, how can we do better? I do want to point out, you shared your story. I also have, again, I owned a business, or ran a business for a few decades that also required background checks of all employees. And one of the things, I know we've had a lot of conversation about the length of time it takes to get those background checks back. Even the state of Ohio recognizes that this can sometimes be a problem. So yeah, I had times when I had an employee's background check come back in less than a week. I had other times when it was 3 or more weeks. The state of Ohio, at least for early childhood providers, actually has in the law, in the ORC that governs early childhood, a caveat basically that says we recognize that sometimes this takes a while and you need to hire people. You need to get people into the classroom. And so an employee can begin work without a completed background check provisionally. And for the early childhood end of it, the provision is just you cannot be left alone with a group of children. So even the state acknowledges that sometimes these background checks take longer than we want them to take. And again, there's very little we can do about that. Our new system is working as it should work. And it's not working any faster or slower than going to the police department would.
I just want, someone brought up about the police department. The police department is the same system we use.
It's the same system.
It's the same thing. Now, the difference for us doing it versus the police, now we've taken out that middle entity, so we do get it quicker that way, but it still goes to the Attorney General web check.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's other companies that are for-profit out there that have, now, some of those, you have to be careful, do not go into the Attorney General's database. They do an overall scan, an internet search, and sometimes they may pick up stuff, so you got to be careful of that because those are the companies you don't want. They always charge more. That's fine. If we want to go that route, we can. The second thing is if they use the Attorney General's site, we've just put in like the police department or another entity in place. This is an outlier for an issue, and I know the board's aware of options. So if somebody violates, the background check comes back and it is a disqualifying offense, say that occurs, the board has the option to just rescind. If you just rescind that contract, which it can happen, is easy, the person's gone. What it doesn't do is it doesn't set a record that may need to be created so an individual with a disqualifying event isn't rehired. So there's another step that a board can do. Instead of rescission, they can do due process. And due process takes time to do that. It requires a pre-disciplinary hearing. Sometimes there may be attorneys involved or not. And then you go through the process of a termination, which also requires some steps. You have to give notice. The board does that. And then in the next meeting, the board then is able to make a decision. But there's also some time in there. There's 10 days that the person who's receiving this termination notice has a right to, I'm going to say, appeal or request a meeting or hearing with that, with the board, with others. So that could stretch out the time. And I'm bringing this up because the process worked here as you stated. And the process is going to work because if you have a termination or a non-renewal, you have to report that now, anytime you apply for a position in Ohio at least, that is on your record. It also opens up, possibly, if there's criminal events that the police could possibly act on, it could also open up to possibility of an ODU report to the Professional Conduct Office. This board, the superintendent, and I, we can't touch that person's license. We can't take away a license. But if there is a complaint filed and there's an investigation by ODU's professional conduct, they're able to do stuff like that, from suspending the license to taking it away, or maybe not even doing anything with it, depending on how it falls. But that has to occur by doing the due process that we've talked about. There's also stuff that are in there in which we can release, absolutely, is, as Mr. Mead talked about, food service, but the real issue becomes not just feeding kids, hear me, it's important, but special ed in particular is really hard to get intervention specialists, it's really hard to get educational assistance, and there's case numbers and ratios and specially designed instruction minutes that have to be met. So if we wait a month, we could be in violation of some of these issues. Now, I'm willing to do whatever the will of the board states, but as was directed up here today by Mr. Hopkins, the best system is a closed system. So we can close it down and just wait until everything comes through, or we're going to do in a mix, which we're having. Now, I've been here 7 on my 8th year, too. We've never had this occur. We've taken some proactive measures. We've put it onto board docs pending background checks. We have some language specifically assigned. It's already in the administrator contracts. That's already there. You talked about, Dr. Howard, the form that we're asking to be signed with. I will also tell you we do not background checks, I'm sorry, it's the wrong word. We do reference checks. And I will tell you that the numerous reference checks came back all glowing. I also will tell you that we'll look at previous employment, and if you have an active license, what does that mean? That means your background and everything is supposed to be fine. There's something called wrap back, and that's important for the public to know. So this is another category that is supposed to help schools, health departments, or hospitals. So the wrap back, and all school employees are now required to be a part of that. So if there is a background check or possible disqualifying event, the school district is supposed to get notice. It's a secure email that comes through. I can tell you in this case, there was no secure email through wrap back coming back. That's a problem. So what does that mean? I don't know. My assumption is it was never reported by previous employers. That's my assumption, but I don't know that because it didn't come through. I can also tell you, we also contacted the Ohio Department of Education Professional Conduct. I did it myself. They will not share information to anybody but the person that is talking about. I will tell you that we had the individual reach out to ODE or ODU, Professional Conduct, and we got some information back, but they had no information, and that in 30 days they would give some information if they knew anything. So that tells me they're either not sharing or they don't know as well. So when you have an active license, as in this case, we're going, and there's no wrap back, and even though the background check's taken longer, it took almost a month to get there, again, it's an outlier. Most come back within a week, week and a half, some even the next day or afterwards. It's not unheard of that something comes back. And just because the background check comes back with something on it doesn't mean it's a disqualifying offense. So you have to look into that, and you got to investigate that too as well. So just because it came back almost 4 weeks later didn't mean that this individual had a disqualifying offense on it. And it also is in the conversations when you do the pre-disciplinary hearing and beforehand when I'm gathering data, what is stated and is the information accurate and described accurately? Because that too also leads to due process and also could lead to, if somebody's fabricating the truth or not telling the truth, that could be professional conduct or ethic issues. So I can tell you that we worked through the process. Unfortunately, it didn't work as quickly as what we wanted to do. And as Mr. Mead said, this is the first one for me. It's the first one for him, and I know he's been on the board a long time. we are putting some steps in place. We are trying to ensure that it doesn't happen again. But if the board wants to change the practice, I'm listening, I'm open, and we will do. If we want to close it down to wait until everybody comes through, we can do that. But understand, there's unintentional consequences, and some of those are listed out.
I have concerns about doing that. Again, so this month, and again, I really appreciate that you put this document together, but there's 9 people on the list for this month. If 1 or 2 of them hadn't completed a background check, it wouldn't have had, and there's substitutes and classified staff, we probably could have managed that. But when we're here in May, June, and July, when we can have 50 to 75 contracts we have to do, I'm concerned that if we want to wait until all of these checks are back, and especially that July when it's really crunched because everybody's trying to get behind that deadline, and that's when the state gets overwhelmed too.
So can you explain the July 10th deadline? I think people need to understand that.
So there's a state law that by July 10th, any employee who is leaving, is it just
Certified, just certified.
So certified staff who wants to leave a district has to notify their district by July 10th
Correct.
of that intent. What that means is that there's a lot of shifting going on in June and July. So that's why we see so many contracts coming through in those 2 months. If someone has decided they're leaving, we have to fill that. So we've got a lot of new people coming in.
And that's
So-
part of the issue that happened here. We had a late resignation in late, mid to end of June. We have to do the interviews, the posting and all that, did all of that. So the July 10th is coming up, the board meeting's July 9th, and we did the process, and this candidate was the number 1 candidate for it. If we waited to after July, say we didn't put him on, that person, wherever he or she is in, is for any position, their superintendent and board doesn't have to release them. And if they quit or leave and try to get it, then that superintendent and board can petition to have that license suspended for a year or more.
So if we don't vote to approve a new hire because they don't have their background check yet, if by that date, by July 10th,
That is
it puts
correct.
them in a lot of jeopardy.
That is correct, and that is correct.
I imagine that late in the date, there's probably very few superintendents that are willing to allow people to pass on, to move on, and come over to Talawanda.
Well,
Or other school districts.
especially in high-need areas, if you're talking special ed, that is a challenge for every school district to fill, including directors onward. Yes.
Would it be possible, not the July 10th deadline necessarily, but in some situations, if we get a background check, we don't want to wait a month, that we could have a special session and do approvals of those hires at that time?
So yes, you can. We absolutely can do, and if that's the will of the board to do that, absolutely. But the July 10th deadline stands no matter what. And that's why we always pick, and when I'm talking about this case in particular, we always try to make that board meeting in July, right around July 10th, to give us that information. So if the board did a special session, say it came back July 15th, just picking a date, we can hire that person, but there's no ability to guarantee that person will be able to come.
There could be almost like a special circumstance for the July 10th, because if someone did not have a background check at that point, school is not in session, those individuals would not be around children at that time. And, you would hope that by the time school
Yes,
starts, that
yes.
for sure a background check would
Yes.
be
And that's the same
back
thing.
at that point.
Thank you. And that's, in this case, you're absolutely correct. So 4 weeks into it, and remember, administrator contracts, even though they say they start August 1st, directors are 225 days, and we have principals and stuff like that are 220. So that doesn't mean they actually start August 1st when you count off those days. But yes, you would hope that you would get the background check and any other information prior to that, absolutely. This is the first one that has not come through.
And like you said, almost every situation, it's under a month.
Absolutely.
Almost every, and.
Thank you.
Yeah. And,
Within a week,
within
actually.
a week. And talking through this process as a board member and being on the board for a long time is really actually been helpful, because my first reaction is rescind anybody that would have a situation like this. The fact is, going through the process, as you said, establishes a record. It not only protects us, but it puts every district on notice. It starts a formal process on the licensing
Correct.
side of it, and that's vital. And the fact that we did that, I'm very happy about that.
Thank you.
It taking a little bit longer to do that with patience was pretty clear-eyed to do that. We could have acted emotionally. We could have done a lot of things. That would have been the wrong decision. But considering that, I mean, I would prefer a closed process for everybody. I know for food service workers and other employees, that's not a real practical solution. And like you said, with the, and that was one of my first questions, these licensing boards. I mean, how often are they given information if something were to happen after somebody had? I mean, that's what I don't know. And so you rely on that. I mean, you kind of rely on it. You're like, a background check, but they have a license, and if something would have happened, the license would have been revoked. Well, okay, then how good is that information are they getting, or they're not getting any information?
So the criminal database is supposed to work in conjunction with the Attorney General's database, and then the wrap back. It's supposed to be all connected. So again, I don't have answers as to why an individual who worked at a place last year and a different place the following, why information would not come through. There was more than enough time to go. I can't answer that. But it should have worked, and there should have been a wrap back.
But considering that almost everyone is under a month's period of time,
Yes.
I feel comfortable not having anybody start, at least in the classroom, until the background check comes back. But that's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think another
The will of
point
the board.
to bring up again with this just particular situation, again, I can't share specific details of some things, but there was a double kind of complication in how
Yes.
we handled it because of the information that came back. There was some
Yes.
legally murky kind of stuff as that came back. So
Correct.
that was why we had to really think about what's the due process behind this to make sure we are doing it correctly and in a way that respects that due process all around and is legal.
Correct.
And again, I think people don't know that, and you shouldn't know that. I mean, there's details, again, that we can't share.
Correct.
And that's often the case. There are details we can't share. So there's just more to it.
Absolutely.
That made this
General.
incident just so unusual. And how could you predict it? So.
And in a situation where if someone were to actually completely lie on an application and that, is a misdemeanor, can be turned in, who would turn that in?
So if it's a misdemeanor, it's a non-qualifying event. Just going to let you know that. So
You mean it's not a qualifying event?
Yeah, it's not a qualifying event.
I don't think the public, not everybody might understand what we're saying there too. So the state of Ohio says there's a list of qualifying events that would prohibit someone from being employed in a public school district.
Correct.
But there are other events that may still be on your record, but would not automatically disqualify you.
Correct.
So the non-qualifying, a misdemeanor wouldn't automatically
So if you-
disqualify you, but if they lied about it, that's the question.
If you lie about it, it doesn't fall under that category. But what it could fall under is professional conduct and ethics with that, which is an ODU report. Lying on an application is not going to go anywhere with the police. I don't see police having any legal authority. I'm just trying to explain. I don't know what ODU would do with it. Nobody here can judge what ODU will do. They do their investigation, and then they make a decision. And sometimes they prioritize, and a lying on an application, in my opinion, would not be a most immediate need to be investigated by ODU. Sometimes it takes ODU 3-4 years to look at stuff, and we've had that here in our own district.
And I just had another question. So
Sure.
with the background check machine we have, I didn't realize we still had people going other places for them. Do we pay for the background checks for
Nope,
application?
we do not,
So,
do not.
so if it's more, then that is up to the applicant if they want
Yep.
to spend more money and not come
Correct.
here.
We don't
in-house.
mandate that they come to
Correct.
our buildings to do it. It could be closer for them to go down to the Butler County Sheriff's. They might
Correct.
live down there. It could be closer to them to go to Miami.
Correct.
We just offer the service so that hopefully when they are coming in to fill out some other paperwork, that they take advantage of it being right downstairs.
Thank you. But it is a longer process when it goes through somebody else,
Correct.
because then the information goes to that entity, and then that entity has to send us the results.
We need to make sure absolutely that it's not some cheap system that it goes through the Attorney
Thank you.
General's, which
The web-
just for speed is not what we're looking for.
Web check is what is endorsed in the state of Ohio, which is the Attorney General's, and that is what we're a part of. It is also required for hospitals and schools to use, and not just do a general. Now, you can do two. You can do the web check, about $55. We've charged a little bit more. And then we can do the $70 or $80 gloss, but the problem is we're paying $70 or $80 and it may not be accurate or pick it up, depending on what system they use or don't use. Now, if they go into the same database, well, they're just paying more money to get. And they have outliers themselves. And in a case like this that shows up, it may be 4 weeks for them. That's an outlier. Most are done, a couple days to a week. It happens.
Would it make sense to, I've just never heard of an employer charging someone who's been chosen for a job to do a background check. I mean, if we can do them affordably, would it make sense to offer new hires a free background check since we own the machine?
We do pay for drug assessments, but we don't, and the reason I'm bringing that up is, it's the will of the board. We have never done that. It's an expense
Okay,
that
I
comes
did,
at-
do other school, I mean, do you know if other
No.
schools?
Thank you for.
Dr.
asking my-
Bailey's out there shaking his head.
No,
Okay.
we don't.
Okay,
They do what we do. You pay for the first, absolutely. Now, remember, depending on the license, some licenses are only good for a year, but some are good for 5 years. Every 5 years, certified staff have to renew, and they have to get another fingerprint printing check. If an individual has their license renewed within the year, they have an active license, background check's good during that year. Anything more than a year 2, 3, 4, they have to have another background check done.
Yes.
and do we offer it all, since we have the service and it's at a lower charge, to possibly, I know like all of our parent volunteers that come in the schools have to be background checked. Is that something that's offered?
Yes, but at a cost.
Okay,
At a cost, we don't pay for it, but we also have had some generous people step up, or PTGs that have stepped up to help pay some of those. But you're right, it's a cost, and it's a cost to our classified staff in particular. As I had mentioned, that was played, that's almost a day's pay, bring home
yeah.
for that check. Yes. But
And especially for our volunteers, I mean, it would be nice, and maybe not in this discussion, but to consider giving them a free background check, one, to be a volunteer in the school.
I am not opposed to that. And if
Because
it's the-
they're obviously not making any money, and
If it's the will of the
they live
board-
in the community, and they've paid
Yep.
for the machine, so.
And remember that this has all changed too recently with the volunteers, because before we didn't have to do that.
Right.
It was up to the districts to make that decision.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, we had this conversation
We did.
a couple of years ago about charging for
did.
the background checks. I think
We
it was
did.
part of when we were talking about buying that equipment.
Correct.
It didn't seem practical at the time. We brought up all of those points.
Okay.
For some people, it's more of a burden than for others, but where do you draw that line? And it's the size, too. I mean, it's the size of the district, the number of employees. So, yeah, I actually did pay for my employees' background checks, but I didn't have that many employees.
Yeah.
So it was not a big deal. But this would be a pretty big burden on a district that we're already trying to watch our nickels and dimes. So I know there was also a question of how many of these we do a year. One person suggested we do like 20 of them.
No.
Like we had 9 of them just tonight. That's probably times 10, 20 times.
We're probably like 200-ish, and it depends on the year. This year was a bigger year. We saw more teachers and administrators that have left in the past, so, yeah.
And also that 5-year turnover, that's going to change, right? I mean, when they have to redo it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's been a while. The 5-year, getting checked every 5 years, that's not that new.
No, that's not new. That's
No,
always-
it's not new. I'm just saying that, so they pay for that recheck?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm
It
saying that
comes up.
that can change those numbers too.
So not
We
every-
have a big staff that needed to redo it.
And not everybody's on the same 5 years. So we're going to have
Right.
some that are due this year, that's 5 years, some next year, some the year, absolutely. And that is part, plus they also have to do their license. Licenses are a little over $200 for the teachers. Correct.
Wow. Gee, Mr. Fauski, can you bring next meeting or provide board members next meeting with what it would cost us to do the background checks for our classified staff, separate out certified staff? If Mrs. King wants to investigate this, I'm all for taking that burden off of employees, particularly the classified staff, but all staff members.
Would you also like, I'm sorry, to look at volunteers, just get an
And-
estimate?
Oh my
of
gosh, and volunteers?
and
Well,
separate that?
of course
We can ask the
volunteers.
principals.
You want to volunteer in our school, that's going to cost you. I don't know.
It does currently.
So just the quick math on my little calculator. If it's $55 and we have 200 of them, that's $11,000. That's not huge, but it's also
That's not
small.
including student teachers, that's not including interns, that's not including volunteers. I did not put
So we
those
just need
into
to
the
be, if
number.
we're going to have this conversation, we
can
just need to
give
be
it-
aware we're not talking about a few $100 here.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to be a few $1,000s.
Maybe we'll find that much savings by next month too, Mr. Tavowski, paper towels or something.
I
On
didn't
paper
catch the paper
towels.
towels.
He
Something.
said maybe you could
Mulch.
find some savings and some paper towels
Paper
or
towels.
something.
I will bring you those figures next month.
All right, thank you. Anything else anybody wants to add? Any questions? Thank you. Informational items, Dr. Thoreau.
Inclement weather, I've been talking about this for the last couple board meetings. It's not just inclement weather. A week ago, or it might have been 2 weeks ago, we had to cancel a Marshall bus route, middle school, high school, and elementary, because we were short bus drivers. So that was an early in the morning call. It's important to have a plan B ready so that you can get your kids there or get them home and understand if there's a closing, a delay, or if there's an early dismissal. We try not to do that, and make sure your children know that. I understand there's a difference between a 5-year-old knowing and, a teenager, a middle school, and high school, but it's important to get those plans ready because it's Ohio. So while we're roasting up here today, in a week or two, we could be freezing. It just goes back and forth. September 19th is a reminder that there's no school for students, but the staff is working, and they're working on some data and professional development. Report cards are supposed to come out on the 19th. We'll see if that occurs. October 16th is coming up, which is the end of first quarter. Remember, we've moved the board meeting up to October 9th, so if it's not on your agenda, please move it up to the 9th, and that's a requirement due to the new legislative requirements for the forecast. And October 17th, there's no school for everyone because it's a fall break. Something I want to really hit up. We did an Anxious Generation book study as administrators, and we did another book study with staff. Now we're reaching out to the community. If anybody's interested in there, you can click on the attachment. It's November 6th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. It's led by Kathy Jenoweth, one of our leaders in the school district. It connects nicely to the Project Reboot that we're doing in November. There's a lot of talk about cell phones, not using cell phones, but there's some information about what our kids are being faced with or growing up using the immediate feedback and screen time. And there's some discussions in this book about identifying some areas of concern as well as some ideas of what to do when you're seeing that. So I recommend if anybody wants to join there, there's a sign up and the attachment will direct you there. And we're looking for bus drivers. If you have anybody that's interested, we're also looking for EAs. We have some opening bus drivers. Just to let you know, we have 2 in the pipeline that will be trained in the next week or 2, I'm hoping. But we are just at capacity. So if we have anybody go down, we're pulling our office staff from Peterman, and they're actually driving the buses. So if you want to take on being a bus driver, it is the best job ever. Please reach out to Peterman, or you can reach out to myself or anyone, and we will get you hooked up. You must have a clean driving record. Just FYI for that.
Thank you. All right, any items from board members?
I was just going to say, last month I participated in the Talawanda FFA Alumni Tractor Pull fundraising event. I've never pulled a tractor before, but I ended up pulling everyone in my really large class, including my own husband. I was really shocked. It was lots of fun, but I'm contemplating retiring undefeated, so I can say I'm undefeated. Not a lot of tractor
So
pullers
you weren't
can say that.
actually pulling the tractor?
No,
The tractor
I was
pulling-
driving the tractor that was pulling the sled behind me.
There you go.
Yes.
I want to
It was
thank the,
cool.
sorry, go ahead.
Did we see the ribbon? There's the medal.
Oh,
Is there a ribbon or a medal that you could share with us?
Well, I ended up going up to the booth because I just said, make it an exhibition pull, and let's say it was a cash prize. And I didn't do it for money, I just did it for fun. So I said, let the next person, it was a younger person, let them have the money. So, but it was lots of fun.
I just want to thank the Bogan PTG. Saturday, I went out to Bogan. The PTG sponsored a family fun day. And it was very nice. A lot of kids and families there playing, enjoying a La Rosa pizza meal and snow cones and games and such. And it's also, when I go to those things that the PTG sponsors, it's always amazing how many of our staff members are giving up their Saturday to be there and interact with the kids and man, the snow cone place or one of the bouncy houses or whatever. So thanks to them and to the staff members who helped do that for the Bogan children at the beginning of the year.
Anything else? All right, future board events, as Dr. Thoreau mentioned, our next meeting is a little earlier next month. It's on October 9th. And do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion or questions? Ms. Belsky, please call the vote.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Please drive safely home.